Hey Dean, Holley Performance. Working on the Caprice again, the 94 LS swap. So the wiring's kind of a mess right now, but I went through, pulled the fuse box apart, and I've labeled every wire with a piece of tape that comes off every relay, every fuse. There's a few here that go to the interior that I'll sort out a little bit later on, but I'm just kind of making this video because we're going to be leaving for a few days, so I won't be able to get back on this till we get back. But I did end up cutting the idler pulley off, which allowed the intake and the throttle body to sit on there really good. The alternator, obviously I got it unbolted and pulled up because I wanted to put a fuel pressure gauge on the rail and make sure that we have what our static pressure is. That's important for the Holley. And then I went and made, I know I don't have a long enough bolt, but I made this spacer that fits inside the pulley bearing. One-handed is hard. There we go. Fits inside and it fits tight. And what that does is it extends the pulley out to line up with, it'll be something like that, lines up with all the other pulleys, crank, power steering, alternator. And then I got to get a belt to rod a belt. I got to make an intake tube, but I got the Holley all installed, the Terminator X, it's all installed. I got AC lines coming. I got the stand-in 508 that goes with the ICT bracket, the ICT billet adapters for the hoses. So I have those fittings coming. The nice thing will be the hoses can go right on. Just cut them down. I'll put the new fitting on, crimp the new fitting. The other hose is somewhere in that pile over there. The coolant tank, the original coolant tank, will fit nice. I cut down the radiator hose to fit the F-body style pump, and then I made a piece of aluminum tube with a threaded 1/4 inch MPT for the steam port. But then, which I should have looked prior, the coolant bottle, that black hose, actually came off the throttle body on the LT1. So I could just, I'm going to undo that, make a new tube to go across, like a coupling. I had to cut the hose down regardless, so that coupling would have been there. Lower hose has been done. That coil pack on the back, I actually took and cut the bracket off, made the other three fit, which allowed the other three to fit, and then I just lowered the bracket, welded it back to the original bracket, which allowed that very far coil to work. This side, I got the fuel line on the rail. I turned the inlet port on the rail up a little bit to clear the coil bracket, but that did put this coil plug in the way, so I have to take this coil pack off, cut this bracket, lower it down to like here, which isn't a big deal. It doesn't do anything except make the wire a little bit longer, but it doesn't rub anything. I have a power steering hose. I believe that's an ICT billet, like power steering hose kit coming. They give you all the fittings for the gearbox, the pump, the line, and then they're like AN style lines. I mounted the Terminator ECU here. The battery cable needs to be like tucked in a little bit more, but the battery cable runs along the front all the way over through there, and then it comes out, goes underneath of everything. I got the ground, so it looks funny, and I always say direct to battery, but this is like the factory truck negative. So it has the big, large cable that goes down to the block, and then it has this cable that comes off that, directly off of, man, that light, of the battery terminal where it goes on the battery. So that's still a direct battery. So I looped them to over here, and that gives me my Holley ground, and it also grounds, it's like a ground for the body panel, because this is a nut and a bolt. The positive I looped all the way under, came up and went to the positive side, like the actual battery side of that like junction block, so that's again direct battery, because again this is like the stock truck cable, which has two large cables, one that runs all the way to the starter, and then normally this one runs to the fuse block that sat like right up over here, like a stock fuse block. So I took and I cut that terminal off that they had, and then crimped on a new like cable lug to go on there. So I want to see if we can get this to fire up. I know it gets roughly 60 pounds of fuel pressure. I know I have a lot to do, but I want to hear it run before I leave. That'll be a big ease of mind for me. So I have the handheld plugged in. I'm gonna do the key on and see what happens. It's coming up. So we know we need to do a TPS auto set. I know I need to do the firmware and all that stuff. So we're gonna go. Oh, the glare is bad. I don't know why there's a glare. Is it a wizard? Wizard. We'll do the global file wizard first. MPFI, 8 cylinders. This is so hard to do. 8 cylinders, firing order. We'll do liters, and it's 5.3. So you can kind of jump the tab over and get you close, and then use the little arrows to dial it in to the 5.3. Next, target idle speed. I always shoot for a little bit high to start. So like I always try, like on a stock motor, I try for like around 900. Next, below 235 degrees. Next, 24 tooth reluctor. Injectors are OEM. What'd you do? Not sniper. OEM. Okay. So let's see. We never used OEM injectors. That's funny. Alright, let's see if we can get a part number off of these. They're LS1. Whoa. So if you dirty it up real good, you can see it. A 1280 155 752 1280, right? Yeah, 1280. So let's see if we can find a 1280. Whoa. 125, 125. So we got 125s. I think it'd be a little bit easier to figure this out, wouldn't it? Oh, I don't think that's it. That is a 0280. So it's on this side. Let's see if we can't. Aha. 125. Let's see, 125. 255. Maybe. Daggone it. hard to see. Yeah, 1255. Man, I can't see it. Where are you? There's one in here somewhere. There it is. Okay. 4271 1255 4271 125 Cool. All right, I'm gonna go with the 5.3 flex fuel. I believe this was a flex fuel. No power adder. Not a drive-by-wire. Transmission control, yes. I believe, see, this is where you have to choose your gear. I believe this car has the 163 second gear. Maybe I'll just leave it one. Tire diameter. Now, is that tire or wheel? I would say it's probably tire. These are 235, 55, 17. Yeah, you know what? I'm gonna make it easier. I'm gonna cheat. I'm gonna look for a tape measure. It's not over here. Well, alright. Well, I can play with that later. I don't know all that. I just jumped it up to like a 29.5-ish. Rear end ratio in this car, I believe, is like a close to a 355, I believe is what he said. Okay. Start. So now it made the global file. And it's loading it into the ECU. Cycle the ignition. So now we should hear the fuel pump and all that. Yep. So there's the fuel pump. Let's see, we should have, well, crap, about 85 pounds of pressure. So that might be a little bit too much. So now we got to do the TPS auto set, which go back to the wizard. Then you go to the TPS auto set. Ignition is on. Cycle the pedal twice. I gotta do it by hand. 1, 2. Done. Successful. Let's see. Basic fuel. See, they didn't ask me any of that. Okay. FR table. Cell enriched fuel prime. I'm trying to find fuel pressure. Advanced fuel. It's not going to give it to me. So I'll have to do that. Yeah, I'll have to do that on the laptop. So vitals. You know, I gotta do all the inputs and outputs, but let's see if it'll start. Oh, fired right up. She's a little rich. See if we can't see. Oh yeah, she's rich. 9s, 10s. And that's the fuel pressure, most likely causing it to push through a little bit, but it is up and running. I don't want to grind off my sensor. Other than air fuel, the fuel pressure, which I'll have to put a regulator on it, but yeah, the target air fuel is you know 13.8, 14.2, something like that. Setting it right now, it's at 9.6, so it's definitely like flood your plugs out rich. But the IAC position's coming down, the idle's coming down. See if we can get it to idle a little bit lower before it heats up too much. Basic, idle speed. Try for like 710. Coming down. That's about 780, 800-ish. Probably kind of where it likes to be. Yeah, it sounds about 850 is where it wants to be. But obviously it's running super rich. So I'll put that back to about 800. Save. Oh, air fuel's coming down now. That 12.6. Maybe it just needed to learn itself a little bit, but it is definitely heating up. Little fingerprint smoke. Fuel pressure is definitely high at 75, which I could change in the ECU, but I'd rather put a regulator on it, and I am smoked out in here right now. And it's 200, so yeah. Shut it down. But yeah, so it definitely, you know, another example of just how simple an LS is, especially when you use a Holley Terminator X. You just can't get any simpler. It works. I mean, that was literally building the file, you know, going through the wizard. So the Holley builds the file, but you go through the wizard and just input some very simple information. If the fuel pressure was right, it probably would have ran a little bit nicer, but you know, you just go through, whack the key, and it fires right off. You know, so again, I cannot say enough about Holley and the systems that they're making, and just as simple as they are. So handing away, that's pretty much it for now. I'm gonna end it here. Little quick 20-minute quick video, but the Caprice is getting very, very close to driving out of here and hopefully having another happy customer. So for now, do me a favor, like, subscribe, leave me a comment, thumbs up. Definitely give me a thumbs up. It helps out a lot. But appreciate you watching. Stay tuned.